Hi, I'm Kiwi,
And I'm Jarad.
and we are the two gentlemen. Jarad, how are you?
I'm good, mate. Good. I'm still in lockdown, but all good. Yourself?
Very well, thank you. As you can tell, everyone who's listening, we're obviously recording over the internet at the moment with our audio quality. We just wanted to say thank you again for joining us especially during lockdown. We really wanted to keep everyone company and make sure that you knew that we were still alive and we're still going. For those of you who are joining us, we'd love it if you could like, subscribe, and give us a follow on all of our socials, from Twitter to Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. And please make sure you share it with anyone you think might get something out of it.
We are really everywhere, aren't we?
We're like a virus. Now, Jarad, you've always got a question for me, but I've got one for you. You're one of the most laid-back guys I've ever met. And, just looking at you now, you're sitting there in your hoodie and you look like a very, very happy guy. At what point in your life did you just become comfortable in your own skin?
For me, oh yeah, wow, it's a good question. Look, for me, I'd say I'll start with my fashion sense. Maybe when I was sort of mid-30s, I made the decision that I guess this is what I'm going to wear for the rest of my life. I'm not too sure. I never was I never would follow the latest trends, but or I, like I've said it before, I sort of keep my eye on things. But you'd buy clothes or things that sort of were in the trend, I guess. But at this point now, like at probably mid-30s, I went, okay, I'm going to be a jeans and shorts kind of guy, black shirt, might wear a hoodie here and there, and this is my dad clothes. I'm not changing anything. So I don't know. Like I don't know if that's a good attitude or a normal attitude or whatever, but that's just one example. And hopefully I'm a bit more open to other things and changing. But in regards to my fashion sense, it probably would have been mid-30s.
Yeah, right. Look, well, it suits you. I'll tell you that.
Well, thank you. I mean, that took 35 years to get this. This is no accident, mate. This is impeccable look.
I suppose it takes a lot of pressure off you when you've got your wardrobe figured out, doesn't it?
It's like Superman, really. You've got your Clark Kent set up, and then you just got what you wear casually, and you just, it's the same stuff. It's like, oh, which black shirt am I going to wear today? Oh, I might wear the off black and the dark black, or it's pretty easy. You just go into a shop and you know what you're going to buy, don't you? What about yourself, mate? Have you got any words of wisdom on that subject? I know I talked about clothing, but there might be other aspects of life. I know, or not might, there will be other aspects in life where people have, essentially made the decision that this is me, and screw anything else. Screw the world if they think any different. This is me. It's my decision, and like it or lump it.
Yeah, in terms of fashion, I give zero thought to it. Growing up, it was so important to me how I looked. And, people who knew me when I was a teenager know that I was quite image conscious. I think that's just part of growing up. You hit puberty, you're trying to, I guess, be attractive to the opposite sex. That's... but it's really funny. I haven't bought any new clothes for so long, unless it's, something functional like shoes. By the way, my shoes are out of the council pickup. They're the best shoes I've ever owned. My mum found them brand new in the box, believe it or not. My size. I looked them up on the internet. They were like worth $184. They're Mizuno running shoes. Fantastic. Anyway, brand new.
I'm made for you. It was like your mum was there for a reason.
But it's funny, I've gone from, being so self-conscious and, buying brand names to getting my shoes out of the garbage. So I feel like I've evolved a lot. It's really funny. We get a lot of the stuff out of a lot of our stuff, clothes, furniture, electronics out of the council pickup. It's amazing. It's amazing what we find. And, I take a lot of pride in that. Erica will bring something home and go, oh, look at this. For example, my eldest son brought home an iPad the other day. It's an older generation one, but it's unlocked and working. It's unbelievable. But
Oh, sorry. That in itself is not really caring what the world. You've made that decision. Like, oh, well, that's. I know that for a fact there'll be a lot of people very embarrassed to do that. Like, they do it secretly under the veil of darkness, and you see it all the time. How people would just, like you put your cleanup out, and at midnight you hear rustling, and and it's the guys looking through your cleanup. But for me, it's like if I put a cleanup out or rubbish out to be collected, like it's going to landfill. If somebody can use it, that's great. I put a lot of free stuff online myself, in the community Facebook pages and things like that. So if I finish with something, I'm like, well, I'm not going to throw it out. And I've actually got a 100% record putting stuff out the front of my house, and it goes. So, I think I'm into double figures too. So I'm pretty chuffed with that.
That's a great strike rate. And look, you're right. It takes a lot of, I guess, being comfortable with who you are to walk around saying, yeah, I wear garbage shoes.
I don't even know I could do. Well, I couldn't do that. Sorry, you're actually ahead of the game for me.
I'll tell you a really funny story. Actually, this is one of the best things that's ever happened in our family life. So, as you know, my eldest son, he's a waste management enthusiast. So he goes around collecting cans as well. So when the whole return and earn scheme started up, he was already ready for it. He had a whole backlog of recycling to get rid of. But when he'd go around the city, he'd carry one of those candy striped bags that, I guess it's quite typical of homeless people to carry one of those. And he carried one of those to the city to go through their bins around the city with his garbage claw and gloves. A garbage claw that he paid for, he bought at a waste expo. And he was going through bins, getting cans out, putting them in his candy striped bag. And they were sitting, I can't remember where exactly, might have been near Hyde Park. And they took out their sandwiches for lunch, and a pigeon came along, stole their sandwich. So and they were just sitting there going, oh my gosh, birds just stole our sandwich. A guy came up to Erica and the kids and said, oh, look, there's a church just up there that is giving away food to the homeless. So if you want to go up there, you can get yourself some lunch. So people have mistaken my family as homeless people. This isn't, knocking homeless people or anything, but, we just find that so funny that that's what our family now looks like. And you can only walk around doing that if you are secure in who you are.
Well, totally. And how was their lunch when they went? No, but, look, yeah, it's true. I mean, it is something that you have to be secure in yourself to do, because it is confronting for other people to see. So, like the thought, like that person's initial thought, and that I guarantee that wouldn't be the only person's initial thought, is that your family were struggling or vulnerable or homeless or whatever. So, it's the perception of others, really, isn't it? Like that's why we do things we do, really, too, isn't it? That's why we follow the fashion, and that's why we follow the latest trends and try and be up to date and try and be the cool guy. Like it's all about perception, and when you stop caring about that as much. I mean, the thing is, though, like, I suppose you don't want to go too much, like not caring. So you don't want to be just walking around in your undies and 48 cats and not caring about the world and all that sort of stuff. But like it's I suppose there's a line, but yeah, now I'm me. So yeah,
whatever that line is, I'm sure we've crossed it repeatedly as a family. So Jarad, I guess this conversation's kind of evolved into, how do you learn to not care so much about what people think, and how do you become secure in your own skin? Was there a point in your life where you felt that you did need to impress people?
Well, yeah, look, teenage years, I think that's a given. I think, as you're entering that workforce and trying to essentially forge a path for yourself professionally, there's a lot of competitiveness, and there's also a lot of drive on your behalf, but there's also a lot of still teenage angst involved in that. Even though you might be 20 or 21 or whatever, you're not experienced. So you might think, well, I'll if I show a point of difference, which is true in a certain degree, but if I show a point of difference by being, the cool guy or something, or the latest this or the latest that, or the best car or whatever, like that might make a difference. I think there might be certain, professions that may be the case, and but I definitely need those professions. But look, I when do you stop sort of showboating, I guess, and then concentrating on different priorities in your life is probably the question, and I've come across people in my life, and I'm sure you have, that are still kind of stuck in that. Like it's all about what I'm wearing, or what I'm driving, all that sort of stuff. And there's many more examples. So, I've never been like that. Sorry, I shouldn't say never. Sorry, it's been a long time since I've been like that. A lot of my jobs, I had company cars, so I couldn't go and show off and buy first world problems, but I couldn't just go and buy a car and be like, look how good my rims are on my car, or, how loud my car is, or look at, so that aspect, I grew up, I got my company cars from the time I was like early 20s. So I had a lot of friends, or a lot of people I knew, that were like driving around in these things that were hotted up because they had a bit of money. They still had that sort of teenage thought of like, peacocking as such. And I never got to. So that's probably when I kind of realized it doesn't matter. Like, and by the time that I got enough by the time I thought, you know what, I'll buy myself a car, or, so I'll have a second car so then I can drive around and I'm like, who cares? Like, so maybe I kind of missed that part of my life because of that. But, it didn't bother me from a very young age,
Yeah, that's a really good point, that, it's really just about trying to show other people what you've got. And I really liked how you said that, you got these cars at such a young age, because it meant that you got to escape that so early.
Yeah, and it was out of pure, I needed it for my job, and part of my job was driving around, and that was part of the salary package. And I never needed to, I still have, you still have urges, but then like to go, it'd be nice to buy that thing or do that thing, but then your common sense sort of kicks in and goes, well, do I need to be spending $10,000 on something, and for what reason? Like, it's almost like a bit of a selfish sort of act, like, do I need to really buy a motorbike, or do I need to really buy a jet ski, or I don't, and yeah. So that's I suppose that's my thought process.
I can tell you unequivocally that you do not need a jet ski. No one in the world needs a jet ski. I don't understand it. Unless you're auditioning for Baywatch, don't buy a jet ski.
Thank you. I was just online on Gumtree looking at one too. No. Yeah. So
I used to drive past the jet ski shop on the way to work. It's relocated, so I don't see it anymore. But it was open during the pandemic last year, and I thought, well, how is that essential? Who needs a jet ski today?
I suppose you can keep your physical distance out there. Yeah. But again, how selfish is that, like, hobby? Like, and not having a crack at people who jet ski, but like just doing that. Well, maybe I am. I don't know. But just actually getting on a thing and going out by yourself, and like, I know people need their time alone and all that sort of stuff, but just to like, you can't physically share that. Like, it's like, oh, what about your partner? What about your family? What are they going to do when you're jet skiing? Like, yeah, I don't know. That's the way I kind of look at things a little bit now. Like, I'm like, well, and I think of that. Like I've played a bit of, not a lot at all. I shouldn't even say a bit. I've just attempted golf here and there, right? And part of me is like, I should do this. It's nice. You do 5 kilometers of walking every time you do it. But look, that's 5 or 6 hours of my day that I have to say to people that, sorry, I'm unavailable. And I just, can't really justify that. Like if golf was shorter, maybe 9 holes, you can sort of justify going, 2 hours is all right or whatever. But yeah, it's just that's the biggest chunk. That's almost like all of the daylight in winter. And it just sort of, like those sort of things I just can't justify to myself. Everyone's different and everyone has reasons for doing things that they do. But for me personally, that's, like I look at that, like I play basketball now, and it's like, okay, from the time I leave my door to the time I get back, that's about an hour and a half. So I've played my game, I've warmed up, I've driven to the stadium and back home. That's an hour and a half of my time. It's usually at like 8:30 at night through to 10:30 at night. So it's like everyone's asleep anyway or about to go to sleep. So I don't know, that's the way I look at things. Like I'm like, okay, well, I can do that. And when I train, I do, like when I just do like boot camp or whatever, it's usually at 5 in the morning or whatever, so I'm making myself available to my family, I guess, during the day. Maybe I've really gone off on a tangent here, haven't I?
That's all right, Jarad. That's how conversations go. But you're right. There is, a single man's life, and then there's a family man's life. And I guess, what we're touching on here with you being, comfortable in your own skin, you said, your fashion really set in when you were in your mid-30s. That's when you became a father. As a single man and as a family man, we have to think differently.
Well, you say that you don't remember, or it's a long time since you've bought clothing for yourself. I'm in the same boat, and I guess it's all about need rather than want. So if I, your typical sort of, walking around with holes in your underpants, like you literally like need to get a pair of, you need to get a pair of shorts or a shirt that's ripped, like, oh, I've got another 5 wears out of that shirt. It's like, there's a massive hole in it. Like, go get another shirt. And I suppose, like myself and, my wife the same, like we barely shop for ourselves, and it's only out of, necessity.
Yeah, Jarad, I just want to let you know I'm wearing Windsor Wolves socks right now, by the way. These are
1996.
Football. Yeah, exactly. These are our footy socks from under 16s. I've still got them, and they serve me very well in winter.
They actually, it's funny. I've got this little roof section of the house that, the girls call the attic, but I suppose it is, I don't know. But it's storage, essentially storage. We've used the roof cavity pretty well. And I was actually going through some boxes, and I found my old sports, like everything I've ever played sport with, I put in a box and I've just kept, I don't know, for someone to deal with when I die, I guess. But yeah, I was looking, it was just funny, the Windsor socks were there, and I thought of you straight away because you told me the other day that you were wearing them as well. I was like, I haven't seen these for a while, and literally heard about them in the last 3 weeks 3 times. So, and I've seen I still do have a pair, and I still got the jerseys too. I don't know if you have, but yeah.
I don't know if I do, but I got the halfback jersey actually because I played a bit of halfback that year.
Yeah, and I remember that was a bit of an issue because you played like half the year or one game over half the year at halfback, and then you got the jersey.
I think our regular halfback may have been in jail at the time. I do remember him coming to a game, getting dropped off by the cops. It's quite possible.
Quite possibly, yeah. That's so that he's only got himself to blame there.
Yeah,
but he missed out on the number 7 jersey.
I think he's doing 7 years right now, actually. Poor guy.
Yeah.
But Jarad, I just want to say, when I was in my early 20s, I made a conscious effort to go through some personal growth and become a better person, like I've said before. And part of that was destroying who I used to be, and I guess being less image conscious. For me, that meant, I guess, not caring about my appearance so much. And one of our best friends would always tease me about that and say, oh, you're letting yourself go. Look at your hair. You're wearing tracksuits all the time. But for me, it was really important to do that to myself. It was almost like a period of self-sabotage just to teach myself a lesson. And that was in my early 20s. It was really important for me because that's probably the period of my biggest growth. Now, I haven't reached my final form yet, I hope. And you were saying, that this is it for you. But for me, I mean, image-wise, I don't really care anyway. But what about in terms of ideas and even ideologies, philosophies? do you find that you're fixed in that, or is it just your fashion that you're fixed in?
I would probably say that, on the spot, this is just my on the spot answer, that I'm probably fixed in things like fashion and material things, I think, maybe. As far as ideas and thoughts, and I'm always open to learn. So I think it's important that you do keep yourself open in that regard. So I guess you hear these things like, oh, that guy's a dinosaur if he's at work and he's been there for 40 years. Oh, don't worry, he'll never change. We just have to wait it out till he retires. That sort of thought process. I've been I've been a long-standing employee, and I actually took a break from those roles, and I've actually gone back to the organisation I was at under different roles. But part of my learning process in that year off was, don't get stale. Don't just expect that it's a paycheck. It comes in, but don't be that guy that somebody comes in out of uni and goes, oh mate, that guy, just steer clear of him. He's got his ideas. He's never going to change. I want to, even if I am at a place for a long time, I want to stay current with my ideas and learnings. So whilst, you just said it and I said it earlier that, oh yeah, I've reached my point where, this is where, this is me, like it or lump it. That's more material things, I think. But yeah, definitely ideas and ways of thinking. I'm hopefully not going to get to that point where that's it. I've made my decision and I'm putting my head in the sand, or I'm putting my foot down, as they say. That to me isn't productive.
Thanks, Jarad. I really wanted to clear that up, actually, because I guess I've met a lot of people who feel that history was sorted out back in, I don't know, maybe at the end of World War II or something, and that's it. Borders are drawn, the ball's out of play. This is it, how things are today. And I've found that it's not necessarily older people who think like that. There's people our age who think that we need to just basically draw a line in the sand right here, and there's no more social advances, there's no changes, there's no more discussion of any cultural issues. This is it. We should be either sticking to what we've already got or going back even further to when it was all working. We hear the term the good old days. And I guess this conversation's taken a totally different turn here. But quite often when I think of the good old days, I think, who was it good for? Talk to an Indigenous person about the good old days and they'll have a different idea to what we think is good old days.
Yeah, look, I think, just touching on a little point there, and I'm not going to go right into what you said there, but when you're talking about things that happened in the past, I think naturally you think, do you remember like you'd have something as a kid, or you'd go somewhere as a kid, and then you'd turn up there as an adult, or you have that same thing, whether it be food or something, and it was just this massive disappointment because you remembered it as being this biggest thing in the world, or the greatest thing in the world, or the best experience in the world. I think that has a role in, like, oh yeah, 20 years ago this was how many times do you hear people say, back in the day we, this isn't how it used to be, or 20 years ago, we used to do this. Like, yes, that happened, but I suppose you just need to understand that things evolve, and as humans we evolve, and I always just look at it back on that little thing that, like that cliff, that whatever I went to, that lookout seemed massive as a kid, but when I got there, it was kind of disappointing as an adult. So, yeah, I suppose we can connect that back to the good old days. like we have this thought in our head what it was, and then what it actually isn't necessarily the greatest thing in the world.
Yeah, I agree. We've all had those moments where we've gone there and gone, wow, this isn't what I thought it was. Yeah, especially when you're sharing it with your own kids.
Yeah, yeah. And I remember going, well, I actually never went there as a kid, but I always heard about like the big banana in Coffs Harbour, like this huge banana. Like, and I mean, Australia has so many big things, like, like you got the big prawn and the big this, the big, like, I don't know what the deal is with that, but it's, I think when people were doing road trips with their family in the 70s or whatever, these things were being built, don't quote me on the time. I'm no historian, but essentially, like, I got to the big banana as like an 18-year-old, and I'm like, this is just a overly sized thing. Like, it's not this, like, it just was so uninspiring. And I'm like, I don't know what I was expecting as well. What? Just that just popped in my head. Sorry.
Yeah, I don't know what we were thinking building these big monuments, but anyway.
There's so many big things. Just they incorporate like a restaurant or a takeaway shop or a petrol station, and by the way, look at that big prawn.
But yeah, look, the world is changing so much, or it's always been in this state of flux. And for you and I to just go, okay, this is us. For you in terms of fashion, for me in terms of, I guess not even caring about, like, fashion's not even in my vocabulary at the moment. And I guess I just wanted to clear up, at what point do we say, okay, this is enough for me. I've grown enough. And I just wanted to clear up, in terms of, your mind, how that's going, because I've met so many people who are static, I suppose, and feel that everything's sorted for them.
With the I can't think of the word, but essentially, without repeating myself, I'll say it just real quickly. Like, I think I recognise that people are like that, so that then I hope that translates to me that I can recognise if I'm starting to show those signs. I don't know if that's the case. I mean, because as I said, you see, as people get older, they tend to just stay in that spot. Like, some people reach that spot earlier than others. But for me, I like to, hopefully I'm self-aware enough to recognise if I'm starting to, dig that hole to put my head in the sand, so I guess that's part of staying educated and growing and not closing your mind to things.
Yeah. Is there a place that you look to for growth? For example, Jarad, I've really got a lot out of music. Now, I've come to music very, very late in life, in my late 30s. And I was watching a tutorial on guitar on the internet, on YouTube. And that led me down to music theory on YouTube. And it blew my mind. It made me grow in a way that I did not expect. So I felt that if that was a path that I pursued when I was younger, who knows what that would have done for my brain then. But hey, I'm happy I've discovered it now. So for me, music has been so inspiring. Learning new things such as surfing. Now, that's a completely different sport to anything I've ever done. You're not just dealing with your own physical limitations. You're dealing with the parameters of the ocean. One day you think you've got this. The next day, Mother Nature teaches you a lesson and dumps you on your head. So things like that have really, really opened me up anyway and helped me with my further growth as an adult. And I was wondering, is there anything like that for you?
Look, I'd have to say that on the spot, I really don't have an answer. So I try and take in, like, I think this goes back to a few things and how we deal with difficult situations or whatever. But I try and take in my environment, and I think I said it, experience the experience. So I guess I look at things and I work out that I don't want to be like this, or I want to be like this, and I try and incorporate or remove or whatever. There's nothing that kind of stands out to me at this point. I'll probably, after we finish recording, I'll probably have have something in hindsight. But look, as we're speaking now, I couldn't pinpoint something for you, but I guess I just want to say I'm always feel like I'm always learning. So I love having conversations with people that have had experiences. People younger, older, more experienced, less experienced. I really do like to hear their take on things, and I try and take as much as that in, and maybe just like one tiny little aspect that they voiced, and I'll be like, yeah, that's a really great way of looking at things, and so that's probably where I pick up and feel that I'm constantly sort of trying to evolve. I guess. I'm not. I don't want to. I wish I had something. I wish I had something like surfing or or music. That sounds really cool. But I just feel like I'm just slow and steady. I'm just picking parts and creating this human. Yeah, like I said, we haven't really finished evolving. Hopefully, it's just a matter of finding the right parts to fit you.
Well, it's a really humble attitude to know that other people know things that you don't. Now, Jarad, I'm just aware of the time. We're going to have to turn this into a double episode because you've just left me with so many questions. So, Jarad, thank you. And listeners, we will be posting another episode immediately after this one. So stay tuned for part 2 of this conversation. Thanks, Jarad.
Thank you, mate. Bye.